In addressing audiences, one of the things that I frequently tell these leaders is that the mark of leaders who are effective is that they have the ability to gain the trust of the people who choose to follow them. It's really that simple. And yet it's our behaviors that we engage in on a daily basis in our interaction with others that will determine whether people choose to trust us or not. So let me talk to you for a moment about something that I see in many leaders who are insecure and whose behavior comes out in a way that actually undermines people's trust and belief in them. Let me tell you a story. Many years ago, when Abraham Lincoln was putting his cabinet together, he was undecided about who his candidate would be, who the finalist would be to be the Secretary of Interior. One person that he chose, Henry Seward, was fine. He had great credentials, and he did okay in the interview. The other person absolutely knocked it out of the park. He was impressive. He had charisma. It was clearly the latter leader that had on the surface the greatest leadership skills. One day, Abraham Lincoln was in his office and he had one of his staff members come into his office and said, "Mr. Lincoln, I have some information to give you. Yesterday I was on a train and Mr. So-and-so, who was the other interior candidate, he was sitting on the train right behind me. And during the conversation that he had with his passenger that was sitting in front of him, he spent 25 minutes tearing apart Mr. Seward. His words were vile. He was, quite frankly, pretty nasty as he tore down this candidate. Mr. Lincoln made a decision that day of who his candidate was going to be, who would join his cabinet. Not the more talented, not the person who had the highest, most attractive presentation. Mr. Lincoln said, "I will not have a leader on my team who talks behind the back of other people. Because if he talks behind their back, he'll talk behind my back." Have you ever seen a leader who is critical of other people, who relishes putting other people down so that he or she can make them look better? Actually, that's one of the most damaging things that you can possibly do as a leader, because what it really says is that you're not confident in who you are. You don't believe in who you are. And in fact, your own sense of self-hatred or your own sense of low self-belief, you're transferring onto everybody else. I had a wise man who told me one time, whatever you do, whenever you take on a new position, there will always be people who will come to you to want to talk to you about why you are so far better than your predecessor. He said, let me give you a piece of advice. Never put down your predecessor. Never engage in that negative thinking and that negative discussion that puts down the character and the accomplishments of another. If you truly have something to bring to the table, you don't have to worry about competing with other people. It is the wise leader who gains high trust, who makes a decision that I will not put other people down. I will not tear people down. I will always seek the best. I will always talk the best. That is the leader that can gain high trust.